What's going on, everybody? My name is Ernest Grant Jr. Today we'll be talking about 5 easy steps you can take right now to get your bench press up. Come on. In this video, we won't be going over the 5x5 or 3x3 programming you see in most powerlifting structures. This will be my own personal programming that I do for bench press, so feel free to take any of the information you see and use it for your own. The very first tip I have for you guys is start incorporating pyramid sets throughout your programming. If you're not familiar, what this means is you're just creating a base with a lot of reps and then just working your way up to the top with a top single. And what this does is helps you structure pretty much your day of training, meaning you can actually have a top single in mind for the day and work towards that with a lot of reps and actually get volume out of it as well. And keeping that in mind, you can use RPE while doing this. It's all up to you, but I can tell you what I personally do, and I'll show you exactly how it goes throughout this programming. So knowing what you need to do is just the first step, right? Now we need to incorporate the actual warm-ups leading into it. That's step 2. Now what this does is it takes everything you're doing during these warm-ups and it corrects any deviations that you might have during your pyramid sets. Now, for example, your shoulder feels out of place, your butt's too high, anything that's making your lift worse, you want to make sure you're correcting it right then and there. Now, this means to make sure your leg drive is on point. Everything should feel great before you even start putting weight on the bar. And what that means is just execute just with the bar until you have everything good. This, I'm telling you, this tip alone will help your bench press so much because the form alone can be very beneficial to maxing out. So now that we have warm-ups out of the way, we have step 3, which is execution and analysis. Now what this means is as we're working up to that top single, we actually want to make sure we're executing the weight properly and analyzing how it's feeling. This is so important when you're trying to get a bigger bench because you want to make sure it feels right as well. If your form is off or anything, like if you didn't see any deviations in your warm-ups, but you feel it when you have weight on the bar, you have to analyze it and figure out where you are for that day. Not just that day, but how to correct any deviations you might have in the future. Now, what this means is if you have 135 on the bar, for example, and you're going for a set of 10 and you only hit it for 5, that's an issue. That means you probably don't have it for that day and it feels a lot heavier than it's supposed to. If you're in a situation like this, do not push yourself. Please do not push yourself to try to push like a new PR or anything like that, because that means you just don't have it for that day. If lighter weight is still feeling heavy to you, just don't do it. It's not worth any injuries you might suffer throughout the workout or anything like that. With that being said, base your training on that day, that specific day, not the previous, not 2 weeks ago. I don't care what your PR was 3 weeks ago, yesterday, does not matter. Base your training on that day, because depending on how you come in the gym, what you ate, how you slept, all these factors can play a part of that specific day. So always base your training on how you're feeling. I promise you this will guarantee an adequate training cycle for you and make sure you're happy with the results, because you're becoming injury free just by taking the time to analyze how you're feeling throughout your lifts. I promise. Also, make sure you're keeping track of each weight that you're going throughout the pyramid. Obviously, this will play a part later within it. As you're working up in your sets throughout the pyramid, this brings us to step 4. Adding volume. Adding volume. Say it with me. Adding volume. So important. Now, as you're working up in your sets, do not be afraid. Do not, please, to add an additional rep or 2 in any of your sets while you're working up into your top single. In most programs that you see online, you might notice you'll be working up to a weight to hit your 5x5 or 3x3 for whatever RPE for the day that you have set for a singular repetition, so that you don't tire yourself out before your top singles or that rep range, those 5x5s or 3x3s. And these pyramid sets, we're not only working with just volume, right? We want to leave feeling like we push past our limits. So it is adding volume on top of good training, on top of us being mentally focused on what we're trying to achieve in the gym. So that means if we have an extra rep in the tank, we should be using it. This means if you feel like it, do it. If you feel like you got another 2, do it. It shouldn't matter. Now, what that means for individuals that know their bodies, just keep going. Don't stop. Go by how you're feeling versus what a piece of paper is telling you to do for the day. Now, this is so important because I literally cannot stress this enough, because I've personally tried programs where I've done the sets and rep ranges for the day, but I just feel like I had so much more energy in the tank. And obviously, that's kind of the point with these programs. But if you know, like I said, it's all by feeling. If you know you want to do more, do more. Don't be afraid to do more. It's not a bad thing. As long as you're not injuring yourself and you're not overtraining, it's fine. It's no issue at all. Another reason this is so important is because if you feel like your training is doing something for you, it's going to make you want to go to the gym and actually put out more effort. And I strongly advise you go with your gut feeling versus a program, because it's how you want to proceed with every set and each rep range that you go through. It's not about what the program has set for you. Programming is a beautiful thing, and it tells you what to do without you even thinking about it, and it just plugs in your data so you get a better total at the end of it. But if you want to do more for yourself, then go ahead and do it. It's not an issue. All right, I think I beat that to a pulp actually, so I'm gonna move on from that. Now, once you've made it to that top single, that glorious top single, and you complete it, it's time to move back down the pyramid. Now, you can do this two ways. I'm giving you 2 choices on this that will help you improve your bench. Now, the first way is to go back down the same exact way you went up the pyramid. So, an example, if you went 135 for 10, 225 for 8, 275 for 3, and then that 315 for 1 as your top single, just simply reverse that order and go right back down. A second way you can implement the back downs in the pyramid is to now incorporate a regulated set and rep range. This means you can do those 3x3s we mentioned earlier for a heavier rep range. Obviously, it's going to be lighter than the top single, but so let's say if we did that 315 rep range I mentioned earlier, you would do the 275 for 3. Now, if you wanted to do a lighter, volume-based training, you could do a 5x5 for maybe an RPE of 6 and go from there. That's still adding that volume, and that's still giving you everything you need for the day, and then bam, your pyramid's done. So either way, whether you're going back down the same way or you're incorporating a 3x3 or 5x5, it's just good to have either one as an option depending on how you're feeling. Alright, step 5 is totally optional after your pyramid's done, and that's your accessory work or your bodybuilding. Now, depending on how your session felt, you might want to do bodybuilding. If you still feel like that wasn't enough for you, just do your accessory work and then get out of there. But if you feel totally roasted throughout the session, then just do your bench press and get out of there. Like, I don't want you pushing yourself to the point of, injury or anything like that. And that's not where I'm pushing myself either. But it all depends on the session. So go by your gut feeling. That's why it's optional. I personally try to break away from just the powerlifting motions. It's kind of tedious in a way, and I hate calling it a day right after they're done, because it feels like I could do more. Like I said, I have a lot of energy sometimes, especially when I'm on pre-workout and the adrenaline's kicking, the music's going, and I'm done my sets for the day. I can just hit some bodybuilding stuff and I feel good about it. I'll give at least an extra 30 minutes to actually go with the motions that I want that will help build muscle, that will aid my lifts overall. When I say aiding my lifts overall, I mean building muscle around the lifts that I actually want to execute for powerlifting. Now what this means is, once I'm done with these crazy pyramid sets, I'm going to do some dumbbell chest work, or maybe some cable flies, maybe some machine chest press, just something to keep my chest pumped, so that way I'm still building muscle in the chest overall to build a stronger foundation for my bench. So I'm just helping it out overall by doing my accessory work and bodybuilding, whichever one you want to call it. It also keeps you free from injuries, from your tendons, your joints, just building that foundation as well. So keep that in mind when people tell you to do accessories. It's not for vain reasons, you know. Everybody wants to be swole on the platform, cool, that's nice, but it is just to build a better foundation for your body while doing these lifts. At least in my case, I'm doing some close grip bench press. It's actually getting some tricep work in there, as well as the inner chest. Feels really good. It's great for bodybuilding. I love doing it pretty heavy too, or my heavy. I'm doing it for 225 right here, and feels great. And that's really it, guys. You don't need a crazy program to start getting a bigger bench. You don't need an expensive coach. All you need to do is start using a form of RPE, making sure you're watching what you're doing, making sure you're warming up correctly, and just overall going by your gut feeling on how you should be executing the lift for the day. That's it. It can't get any simpler than that. If you like this video, share, comment, like, subscribe. Try to make a better schedule of when to put stuff out. And if you disagree with anything, just let me know in the comments. I'm happy to have a healthy discussion with anybody about this. Like I said, this is my personal opinion on it, so I'm really hoping it helps you guys. As you see, it's been helping me, so let me know. Thanks, guys. See you later.